Hello class, these are our informal geometry notes for angle bisectors. So I know it does say here that we are beginning um, with a wax paper activity, so that's using patty paper for our angle bisector. So I am not able to show you that here on my surface, but what I can show you a little bit here is that we took an angle. So we took an angle on our patty paper and then we folded up our angle sides. So we folded up our angle sides so that this side here, let's call it AB, when we folded it over, it matched with BC. So we were folding point A on top of point C. And what that did is when we folded it, it made this ray through the middle. And then we put an M on that ray. And that ended up being our angle bisector. So what happened is it divided up our angle into two angle parts, equal parts. So that's what we did for those part of our notes. And then off on the right, we did some little notes here. We said that the angles then were equal. We said the ray was the angle bisector. So let's go ahead and make a couple of those notes because you are going to need to know them. So ray BM bisects angle ABC. So that's the first thing we wrote. Then we wrote about how those angles were congruent. So angle ABM is congruent to angle MBC. So that's my two smaller angles were congruent. We wrote that, let's see, what else did we write? We wrote that the measures of the angles were equal. So the angles are congruent and their measures are equal. It's just good for us to practice that notation. That whole angle ABC is twice what one of those smaller angles is. So 2 times the measure of angle ABM. And then if we look at the measure of angle ABM, that's going to equal 1/2 times the measure of the big angle, ABC. So those are some things we didn't add in class, but I think would be really useful for next year. One of the things you're going to notice, well, we'll look at that below, is kind of how we're notating this. Some kind of tricky things about angles. So that's what we did on our wax paper. Obviously, I can't show you the wax paper activity on this screen, but I did the best I could. So here is an example right here. So we are shown this ray. It says ray BD. That's my ray symbol. So this ray BD is bisecting angle ABC. So ABC is the big angle right there. And the measure of angle ABC is 110. So this is really important that they're saying this. And what I want you to notice here, this is like a smooth curve through both sides of that angle. That's showing that the whole thing is 110 degrees. And my goal is to find measure of angle ABD. And I want to find measure of angle DBC. So those are both of the smaller angles, okay? So ABD is this one right here. DBC is this one right here. So remember, those two smaller angles, they're each together, they make the 110. So each of those angles is half as big. So I need to do 110 divided by 2, which is 55. And so each of these angles is going to be 55 degrees. And I want to erase my diagram again really quick and just kind of go over that one more time. So I know this angle's been bisected. Because this is a smooth curve, I know both angles are together are 110. When I divide that by 2, I get 55. That means this angle here is 55, and it means this angle over here is 55. So notice when I wrote the 55 and I just made this curve here that stopped at the line, and then this other curve is like separate from it. There's a jump between the two. So because it doesn't go through both, it shows me that when I say the 55, I'm only talking about this part here. All right, let's go and look at a couple more examples. So this is our checkpoint problems now. We have ray HK is bisecting. So each of these has an HK, a ray through the middle, and we're telling you it's bisecting. And you want to find the measure of angle GHK and measure of angle KHJ. Those are two of the smaller angles. So if I were you, I would go ahead and pause this video real quick and go through and answer these questions and then check back with me. So for the first one, 32, again, smooth curve goes through both of them. So 32 divided by 2 is 16. So both of my smaller angles are going to be 16. The next one's kind of a trick question. We have a 90-degree angle in the corner. So the two of them together are 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. So measure of angle GHK is 45 degrees. And measure of angle KHJ is 45 degrees. Last one, we have a smooth curve again, 161. When we divide that by 2, it's going to be 80.5. So the measure of angle GHK is 80.5 degrees. And same thing for the measure of angle KHJ, 80.5 degrees. All right, on to our next example. So on our next example, I want you to notice that when they say 46 degrees, that's not like a smooth curve that's going through both angles, is it? So this is one of those where it's showing like this angle right here is 46, and this angle over here is like separate from that. So the 46 is only this part right here. So they're asking us to find the measure of angle LMO. So LMO is the one that's marked, that's 46 degrees. The measure of angle NMO. NMO is this one over here. Well, this has been bisected. So if it's bisected, we know that each of those angles is equal. So angle NMO is also 46 degrees. And then the third thing that I really want you to find that's not labeled here is to find the measure of the big angle. And the measure of the big angle, that would be angle LMN. And I would get that one by doing 46 times 2. Which I believe is 92 degrees. So be really careful about how they're notating that. So for the checkpoint problems here, you could go ahead and pause and try all three of them again. This is the same idea as the last one. We have a bisector for each, and we're asked to find SQP. So SQP is the angle that's not labeled, and PQR, which is the big angle. And so on each of these, you're going to notice that these curves don't connect. So when they say 45, they only mean this angle right here that I'm kind of highlighting. Or when they say 60, they only mean this angle right here. So go through, answer the questions. So pause me, and then we can check back together. All right, so we're back as a class again. Measure of angle SQP on this one is going to be the same. They are both 29 degrees because it's being bisected. And then if I want to find the measure of the big angle, RQP, I need to, or I guess I say PQR, but that's the same thing. Remember, we can reverse the order. I would have to do 2 times 29, which should be 58 degrees. On the next one, measure of angle SQP. Well, SQP will also be 45. And I want to find the measure of angle PQR, which is 2 times 45, which is 90 degrees. So I've had many students point out that instead of doing 2 times 45, it's easier for them to add 45 plus 45, and that's fine. But the reason that I say that we're multiplying it by 2, I'll do this last one as well, is that I think if you're thinking about multiplying by 2 or dividing by 2, it's easier to work backwards when you have the big angle and find the smaller one. So SQP is my other, wait a minute, SQP is, it's already labeled. That one, oh yeah, 60 for both, so that one's 60. And then my big angle is PQR, which is 120. So I really like this multiplying by 2 to find the big angle, dividing by 2 to find the small one. To me, those are related, versus like if I think about this as an addition thing, then when I'm finding my smaller angles, I'd have to think about what number adds to itself to make that whole big angle, and I think that's confusing. So I think multiplying by 2, dividing by 2 is just a better way to think about these. Okay, so now we've got one that's using algebra. So using algebra, RQ, ray RQ, bisects PRS, find the value of R. So if it's bisecting, then that tells me that this angle here is the same as this angle here. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. So 6x plus 1 equals 85. And then I'm going to solve. So 6x 1 minus 1 makes a 0. 85 minus 1 is 84. So 6x equals 84. And then we need to divide both sides by 6. And this is 6 divided by 6 is a 1x, so x is by itself. I don't have to have the 1 in front. It means the same thing. And let's see, 84 divided by 6 is equal to 14. And all we had to do is find the value of x here, so we're done. Let's go to our next problem. Ray BD bisects angle ABC. So same thing here, this one is bisecting. So I know that my x plus 12 is going to be equal to my 55. That's what bisect means, equal on both sides. So x plus 12 is equal to 55 minus 12 minus 12. X is equal to 43. And that's all I had to do. I had to solve for x. So as always, as you're working through your homework, if you need help, please make sure to ask your teacher during class.